All right, good evening, folks. Welcome back to RenmanMusicandBusiness.com. My name's Steve Rennie. I am the Renman, and this is Renman U, Lesson 10, Music Publishing, how to turn your songs into money. That should be something we're all interested in. I've said it before, I'll say it one more time. The building blocks of the music business are great songs and great performances. And so on today's class, we're going to be talking about one of the most important aspects of the music business. It's called music publishing. We're going to talk about what music publishing is, why it's such an important part of a successful artist's career. We're going to talk about getting that money and who can help you do that. We're going to talk about the main sources of publishing income, where the money is, what they are, who pays them, and how much you guys are going to get. We're going to talk about these things called performing rights organizations, who they are, what they do, what the difference is between them, and how you can hook up with one of them. And finally, we're going to talk about music publishers, what they do, how they do it. We're going to talk about the different kinds of publishing deals that are out there. We're going to talk about what some of the key deal points of those deals are, why you make a publishing deal and when to make one. And finally, when we're all done, we'll talk about how and what you can do to get started today. Now, and for you folks that are watching for Renman U for the first time, let me tell you what we're doing here. Now, there are lots of people out there in the world and on the web, people in schools who want to teach you the music business. I've been doing this for a long time, and here's what I've learned. You can't learn the music business by reading a book. You can't learn it by watching a video. You learn it typically by doing. You learn it from people that have succeeded and done it for a long time. That's the best place to learn. So Renman U is my insider's guide to today's music business. And I'm going to share with you folks today all the lessons that I've learned over 36 years of doing as a concert promoter, as a record company executive, as an internet entrepreneur, and for the last 17, 18 years as a manager. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about how to succeed in today's music business. But we're going to talk about the real music business, not this bullshit fairy tale textbook version that you read about. We're talking about the real music business. So if we shed a little tear here today, don't worry, we'll be okay in the morning. Now, if you're looking to do something really great in the music business, you're going to likely need some help. So for you folks that are looking for help, I think you're in the right place today. But life's not perfect. I'm going to want something from you, and here's what I want. I want you folks that are watching online to be a part of it. How do you do that? I want to know that you got a burning desire to do something great in this music business. I want to know that you're willing to put in the work and take the time that it takes to learn. And in all my experience of learning and teaching and doing, the thing I've learned is that the best way to learn is to ask questions. And we've got a saying around here, if it's your first time, you'll remember it. If you don't ask, you don't get, and you don't learn anything, all right? So we want to tell you how to ask some questions here. So start with the folks that are watching on the web. For you advanced planners out there, you can post your questions ahead of time, always on our event page. Code, show them how to do that. We're just going leisurely through this today, folks. All right, El Capitan back. Got a lot going on. Okay, there's our home page. We want to go to the event page. There you go. So if you go to that home page, that event page, you can post your questions down at the bottom. You can post your questions in the chat room if you just can't plan ahead. If you looked up there, you can see the chat room. I want to introduce you to one great reason to go to the chat room. Her name is Michelle Raitzin. She's a singer-songwriter in her own right. Tell them how to get involved around that chat room, Michelle.
Yes, hello, my lovely people. I love when you interact. Please feel free to ask questions because I will ask directly to the Renman, and it'll be cool because you'll get a shout out. So
are there any dumb questions, Michelle?
No questions are dumb.
No dumb questions. It's dumb not to ask a question if you got something on your mind, right?
Yes.
All right, good stuff, Michelle. And then for all of you really bold ones, the potential manager types, the folks that are looking to get to the front of the class or the front of the stage, you can call us on our Renman U hotline at 310-469-9067. You move right to the front of the class here. Okay. Now, in addition to all you lovely folks that are watching online today, and we're certainly happy to have you, we have with us today 4 real live people that have joined us in the studio here today who I'm going to introduce you to right now. We're going to start with this gentleman on the right. We got these guys that got lost on the way to Seattle. Tell us who you are.
My name is Nicholas. I play guitar in the band Down North.
A band called Down North, even though you're down south this week. Okay. To your right, my left is?
Anthony the Renegade Briscoe.
Anthony the Renegade Briscoe. Nice outfit. I'm owning those pink pants, dude. I love that. And the bow tie. You know, this is like, maybe you should be the professor here today. All right. All right. To your right?
This is Conrad, Superman Real.
Superman Real. Okay. And speaking to the microphone. Come on, you guys are professional musicians.
Conrad, Superman Real.
Much better. Much better. And to your right?
Brandon Storms.
And what do you do, Brandon?
I play bass.
You play bass. So all of you guys are in a band, okay? Excellent stuff here. Okay, I expect you guys to be lively and ask some questions here today. Okay. Nice to have you, by the way. And, you know, it's getting a little cloudy here. This may be like home before the end of the day. Before we get started, I want to tell you folks that are just tuning in for the first time a little bit about our website. Now, I started this website called Renman Music and Business about 18 months ago, and I had a really simple idea about it. I wanted to help aspiring artists and young music professionals navigate their way around today's music business, that real music business. In my career, I've been lucky enough to have so many of my rock and roll dreams come true. That I decided that I wanted to help some others try to make their own music biz come true. So I've invited some of the smartest, most talented, most successful people in the music business to help me teach you what's going on. And today, I think our Renman Music and Business site has become the single greatest source of music business knowledge on the planet. I encourage you to dig down deep into that site and start learning, folks. You can't help but learn something if you spend some time there. To do that, though, you'll need to join our community. It's easy and it's free. You just go to our webpage and click register. You go to this little site, this portion of the site right here. You fill out all that stuff on the left. You give me an idea of what you're dreaming about doing on the right. And we're going to stay in touch, and you're going to be part of this conversation that we've been having here, okay? Now, glad you joined us today, but we're not broadcasting every day. The best way to keep in touch with all the goings on here at RenmanMB is through our social media. Of course, you can go to Facebook, RenmanMB. How about we go to Twitter at RenmanMB? Our YouTube channel, where would we be without? We got to update that code because we're at 4,100 subscribers now, man. It look like we're lonely, guys. YouTube at RenmanMB. And finally, if you like dog pictures, behind the scenes stuff, at RenmanMB on Instagram. Okay. Whew, now that we've gotten all that business taken care of, now we're going to talk about music publishing. I want to talk about music publishing and these songs and how music publishing becomes a part of it. And we'll trace a little path here, right? You guys are in a band, right? You guys write your own songs?
Yeah.
Okay, so you write some songs. Now, you guys could have written them solo. I don't know how you write your songs. Maybe you write it. Maybe it's a couple guys. Maybe it's all of you that are writing those out. How do you guys do it?
I do a lot of the vocals.
You're the singer?
Yeah, I'm the singer.
Okay, microphone, okay? Yeah. Okay.
So I do a lot of the vocals and the vocal writing. Me and Brandon will probably team up, and then they'll jam some music ideas.
All right, so you write a song, and that idea comes to Heather. I imagine you sit, something comes in your head, the lyric, and then somebody starts riffing on it, and that idea then gets written down on paper, perhaps the lyrics. Maybe you've recorded a melody into your iPhone, like Nate Roos from Fun. Maybe you saved it on a file on your Pro Tools, GarageBand, whatever it is. But once you've done that, okay, it now becomes a piece of property. The Copyright Act, which is the basis of all these rights in America, says that it's a real recording, it's a real piece of property when it's fixed in a tangible medium from which it may be reproduced. Okay, so now if you've done all the things before, that I just talked about, you now have a copyright in a song. We'll talk a little bit later about how to register that to make it official, but once it's in some form that you can reproduce, it's good to go. I think for some people, when they're thinking about songs and property and all this stuff, it just kind of plays with their head. So I tell people, think of it not as a song, which is this like little floating bird. I said, think of it as a house, okay? Think of it as a business that you guys have built together. And then it's easier to start understanding the property side of it. If you own a house, if you own a business, right, there's clearly property and rights that come with that, right? And when you're talking about the music business, your house, your your business, which is the songs, those rights come in the form of copyrights, okay? And this idea of music publishing is all about the ownership, right, of that house, those songs, and how you exploit it or make money with your business in your house, right? So, so that's what we're going to talk about here today. People, wonder, why is music publishing so important, okay? It's not the most exciting thing to talk about, but it's one of the most important things around, and I'll tell you why. Unlike a record deal, okay, the money you make in royalties from publishing is what I call unencumbered. There is no mortgage on your house like there is in a record deal. If a record label, advances you money to make the record, to market your record, to put you out on tour and all of that stuff, if you're lucky enough to earn royalties, they deduct all that stuff so that you could sell 1 million records and not make any record royalties, which is why lots of bands wind up hating record labels. Not true in the publishing business. If you get an advance on a publishing deal or you make your publishing income, and we'll talk about how you generate that a little bit later, that money goes all the way to your pocket with no deductions. There's no cost of marketing and so forth and so on. So it's really important because it's paid from $1. So you sell 1 million records and you're getting roughly 10 cents, or $1 a record in publishing income. That 1 million records with all the recoupment might not have earned you a dime of royalties. That same 1 million records sold that gets you $1 of publishing goes into your pocket $1 million. That make sense so far? Okay, everybody's nodding their head. That paid from $1 is a key concept here. The other thing that's important to note about songs, that great songs can last a lifetime. They can provide you income for a lifetime. There are songs that were written in the 30s and 40s and 50s that are still generating income for people that might have already been dead and buried. I think the limit is 99 years or something. So, but basically it would cover your lifetime and the lifetime of some of your friends. I'm fortunate to play golf with a great songwriter, a guy by the name of Mac Davis, who's in his 70s now. He's written some huge hits, In the Ghetto for Elvis Presley, a bunch of huge songs. And he kids that he's in the business of going to his post office box, okay? And it's been a long time since he had a hit or those songs been played, but they still get played on the radio. They still wind up in movies, and he's still going to that post office. And on the back of his car, his very fine car, his license plate says THX-ELVS. Thanks, Elvis, okay? We had a friend on our show here, a guy by the name of Mario Gonzalez, who's a music attorney, right? Who basically captured the importance of songwriting in a simple little quote. Code, you have it up there? Here's what he had to say. The people that write the songs live in huge houses, and the people that don't write the songs, maybe not, okay? That kind of puts it right where it's at, okay? So anyway, we've talked about this idea of get the money at our website a number of times. Code, go to the front page of the site if you would. Yep. Have you guys spent any time on our website, you guys here?
I mean, most things you're saying, they've heard me say a couple times, like get the money.
Okay.
Ask not one,
okay, all right. Well, this is, you're going to get some idea. We're going to go through it all here today, okay? So if you go to our front page and you go up to the feed there's a section in there called Big Picture. And these are some thoughts and big picture things that I've learned over the years from doing this. Things that I didn't necessarily start with, but I now have a clear understanding. One of them is this idea of get the money, which makes most musicians horribly uncomfortable because they're in it for the art, and it's like, a museum piece, where for me, this is a living. This is what you do. That's what defines whether you're building a career or a hobby, is whether you're getting the money. So we talk about that idea of getting the money, and there's no place that I think it's more important than in the publishing business, right? That notion of getting the money, hugely important. Don't forget it. It's okay to talk about. So when you're talking about getting the money, right, the first thing you got to figure out is, where is the freaking money, right? Bank guy robbers and figure it's in a bank, it's here. So let's talk about where the money is in those songs that you guys have written, okay? Okay, let's talk about sources of publishing income. So now this is not exciting stuff, folks, but it's very important. So you'll bear with me as we go through this. There are three main sources of publishing income, three buckets, and in a little fourth bucket we'll talk about. Those three buckets are mechanical royalties, okay, which come from attaching your music to stuff, CDs and the like. Bucket number 2, performance incomes. Every time one of your songs is performed, whether you're performing it, whether somebody else is performing it, whether it's being performed on a jukebox or wherever it might be, that's called performance income, right? The third major bucket is called synchronization. And the synchronization is when those songs that you've written on the recordings that have been recorded get attached to an audio visual in a movie, in a commercial, on a YouTube video. That triggers what are called synchronization royalties. Now, there's another small bucket called print, which is when people first started the idea of music publishing. That's what it was. It was putting it on, a piece of paper, and they sold it in songbooks and all that stuff. In today's world, nobody's reading those kind of books, and it's a very tiny, tiny part of the music publishing thing, but it's the one that actually sounds the most legit. I published the music in a book, right? Don't worry about that money. You're not gonna be able to pay for your cigars with that money, okay? Hello there, my name is Steve Rennie and I am the Renman, and I thought we'd take a little break from the Renman U sessions and talk about the course that was spawned by it all. It's called The Insider's Guide to Today's Music Business. If you're looking for a no bullshit, straight to the point look at what it takes to survive and thrive in today's music business, you don't have to look any further. My Insider's Guide is the most comprehensive look at the inner workings of today's music business you're going to find anywhere at any price. Learning about the music business is easy and fun with my Insider's Guide. Let me tell you how it works. The course includes over 150 short 3 to 5 minute video lessons packed with insider knowledge. It's been my experience that in the music business, more often than not, big is good. Each lesson is accompanied by a written transcription for those of you that like to read and follow along while you learn. In addition, each lesson is accompanied by a supplemental video interview highlight from one of my smart, talented guests on Renman Live.
You generally need a label for scale. So if you want to actually be a big artist and actually reach the world and have a lot of and hit all those touch points, which are very difficult to hit, you need an army.
When you finish watching the video and reading the text, you'll take a short quiz to test your understanding of the lesson. Instead of focusing on terminology, the quizzes are based around real-world scenarios you'll likely face in the real music business. You can take the quizzes as many times as you like. Once you've completed the quiz, your score is immediately posted, and I'll give you feedback on all the right and wrong answers to make sure you really understand what's going on. There's a lot to learn in the course, and it's easy to feel a bit overwhelmed by it all, but you'll know you're making progress every time you see that little green check appear by a lesson. It's also easy to keep track of what you've done and how much you've got left to do. The lessons cover all the key areas of the music business you need to know, including how to get your head in the right place. That's the big picture. Making great music, treating your career as a business, building your professional team, managers, marketing and promotion, record labels, music publishing, touring, and getting started. You can purchase the course in one of two versions. First, our solo version, where you'll have full lifetime access to the RenmanMB Insider's Guide. You can study at your own pace, choose what lessons you want to view and when. You can access the course from desktops, laptops, tablets, and smartphones. You'll also get access to our exclusive Renman Live full episodes, which are no longer available on YouTube. For those of you that are really serious about your music business career and are looking for some personal attention, I suggest you sign up for the Mentor course. In the Mentor version of the course, you'll also get a 1-hour Skype session with me to talk about what you're looking to do in the music business, and I'll help you get a plan to make it happen. You got to do the work, but I'm going to point you in the right direction. I'm so sure that my course is going to help you learn the music business. I'll make you this promise. Take 30 days and go through the lessons and quizzes, and if you don't think my course is going to help you, just send me an email and I'll give you your money back. All right, that's my Insider's Guide to Today's Music Business, and if you're really serious about doing something huge in this business, I hope you'll check it out. Now, let's get back to the Renman U web series that started it all. See you later. Okay, so let's talk about these sources of income, the money, in a little bit more detail, right? These mechanicals that we talked about is bucket one, right? And it used to be they came pretty much, you made a record, whether it was an LP, whether it was a single, whether it was a cassette, it was some form of a recording, and that's where the mechanical attached to. Things have changed a lot, obviously, in the last few years. One thing hasn't changed. You still got to have great music that people want, but how they get it is what's changed. And so one of the ways that's changed now is you can get that money on a download. You don't have to put it in a case. You don't have to go to a record store. You go online, you download that song and put it on whatever listening device you want. So that's one of that's the second flavor. The physical media, downloads is number two. Now there are streaming services out here that weren't anticipated years ago. While people were talking about downloads, then somebody decided, no, I want it to be all you can eat, okay? And so they have all these streaming services that are out there, and there are different flavors of streaming services. Interactive ones, you choose the song, right? Non-interactive streaming services, Pandora, that they choose the song, think radio, right? And then I'm not a big ringtone fan, but I know a lot of kids are, and I've heard some great ringtones over the years. So that's the other thing where this music gets attached to it. Okay, everybody with me so far? Yep. Okay. Mechanical raise. Every time a unit is sold or manufactured, we're talking about that first bucket now, that's where these things are going. Record companies are typically the people that are paying those kind of royalties to attach it to something. But you can go into the Gap now and they've got a CD. You can go into Starbucks and they have a CD. The W might put out a promotional CD. All of those are going to pay those mechanical royalties. And the rate, if you want to know, now we know where the money is, we know who's paying it, now how much is it? They're paying you 9.1 cents per song on a CD. I'm going to make it really simple that way because in a record deal, they may have some way of capping the number of songs. But in general, let's just make believe, that you get paid on every one. It's 9.1 cents per every song if it's under 5 minutes. If it's over 5 minutes, it's a little bit different thing. I won't bore you with all of that. Outside of the U.S., the royalty rate is typically about 8 to 10% of the list price. Okay, that's mechanical royalties. These digital downloads we talked about, okay, those are the things that you're getting on Amazon, on iTunes, on Google Play. There are actually hundreds of retailers out there, digital retailers, that will sell downloads. Same royalty rate, 9.1 cents, same 8-10% of the outside. Any questions so far? Okay, well, I'll hold them there. Streaming mechanical royalties. Now, as we all know, streaming's the name of the game today. This idea of interactive, you put in the song and so forth, is very popular with everybody. In that scenario, if it's a stream, okay, there's a different rate. The rate now is about 0.005, which is half of a cent, I believe, per stream. Now, that may seem like a tiny amount of money, and it is, but when you think about how much access people have to music and how many different places they can touch it now versus having to go to the record store, that number is going to grow over time, but everybody hates the front-end number, the X times the other number. The X feels small, but that's where the business is going these days, right? The mechanical royalty for ringtones is about 24 cents per ringtone if you sell a ringtone. So those are where the money is in the mechanical side of it, all right? Everybody, that's what you attach to something. You're paid on an individual download or ringtone or whatever, and on the stream, same deal, just a tiny number, right? Now, let's talk about performance rights. When you have a public performance of your music, whether you're playing it live, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on TV, whatever it might be, that's a public performance. It might be at your local pub, it might be background music in a restaurant, hair salon, whatever it might be. Each time that happens, the songwriter earns some money. So who's paying these royalties to you guys, right? It might be the radio networks, it might be the network TV, a bar or a club has bought a blanket license to play your music, same for restaurants, airplanes, offices, the elevator music, and all these places that you take for granted where you're hearing music, that is generating a performance royalty for somebody, right? In the U.S. and outside the U.S., that royalty rate is determined in a one-on-one negotiation. There's no statutory rate, so you got to kind of duke it out. And it's one of the reasons you'll ultimately go to one of these performing rights organizations, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's, of course, interactive streaming performance royalties, okay? So you get paid for the actual mechanical of those things, but you also earn a royalty for the public performance. You get 2 for the price of 1. So when you're watching or listening to YouTube or Spotify or RDO or any of those streaming services, that counts not only as a download or a mechanical royalty, you also get a performance royalty there. No set government rate yet. It's determined individually by the PROs. That's some of the stuff you hear about read about in Billboard, ASCAP and BMI and publishers pulling their rights from ASCAP and so forth. That's what that's all about. It's because there is no set rate, so it's all hacked out one-on-one, and everybody's going to take their best shot at it. This non-interactive streaming also generates a publishing royalty, right? So companies like Pandora, Slacker, iHeartRadio, Sirius, satellite cable companies, and thousands of others of these non-interactive read, just like radio, they play the song, you decide whether to turn it on. That also generates a royalty, and that rate is determined, once again, one-on-one, duke it out, mano a mano. Same is true for ringtones, which we talked about a little bit earlier. Now, the other third bucket, and this is one of the buckets that's actually growing quite a bit or growing faster than some of the other ones. Certainly, whereas mechanical royalties are going down, certainly on records, this area of the music publishing pie is going up, and it's called synchronization license. So if a film or a TV studio or a production or company or somebody else wants to use your composition in a TV show, a movie, or a commercial, they need to pay you a sync license, right? That fee is, again, a one-on-one negotiation. So if you've got the Rolling Stones Start Me Up and you're talking to Bill Gates, that might fetch one price. If you guys, DownNorth goes and gets an offer, you might say, hey, $500 we'll take, just get us out there where people can hear us, right? Because you're still looking to make your mark. So that's all these synchronization licenses. That's how it happens, and that's why we'll talk a little bit later about the number of companies that have sprung up just to handle these sync licenses here. On the sync license front, I'll just say on the big picture level, the reason there's so many more opportunities in that synchronization world is you guys are way too young to remember, but I can remember when I first started watching TV as a kid, there were 3 or 4 big TV stations, period, okay? Now there's 3 or 4 or 500 channels of cable TV. There's video games, there's all kinds of different places where music being played now, and they're going and finding bands like you who wrote a great song who might be a lot more affordable than a big band that has a big reputation that's gonna have a big loudmouth manager who wants a lot of money. So these synchronization licenses is becoming a key part of the business. If you want to talk about this, if you are also doing a sync license for, a DVD, those kind of things where there's a physical product of it too, there is a mechanical royalty that's involved in that sync too. And that is really DVDs and a movie that was seen in a theater now is on a disc, okay? That would create one of those mechanical royalties. And most of the time, if they're putting it on something, that's going to generate a mechanical royalty. In the digital world, okay, we know that all kinds of people are creating videos for YouTube now, right? So they might, some fan of yours might take one of your songs and put it on his video, right? And when that happens, there's a digital synchronization license that needs to be taken care of. Always negotiated, on a one-on-one basis, although typically it's a percentage of net royalty and stuff. So that's for when you think about all these kids that are doing videos online with YouTube and how it all plays out. This is why guys like me used to not want to see that happening. And then when everybody started getting their arms around the idea that that actually generates artists' income, but it also, I'll make the case, is a great promotional tool for getting the word out about your band, right? So that's the digital synchronization line. So that's a brief rundown of those 3 buckets. I'm going fast today because we got a lot of ground to cover, but are you guys with me so far? Yeah. Any questions online?
Got a random question from Zook.
Okay, let's take a she's a random question, but she's one of our big supporters, so she can ask random questions.
I think it's CSAC, is that how you pronounce it?
CSAC, yes.
Is by invitation only. How does an artist get considered? Is that true that it's by invitation only?
I think the reality of that, we're going to talk about those PROs in a second, Zook. The reality of that, when I hear invitation only, Here's my translation. If you're making them real money, they'll invite you. And I say this with all due respect. There's hundreds of thousands of songwriters out there that wrote a song, registered with the Copyright Office, and almost any artist can join ASCAP. A little bit more selective on BMI, okay? But CSAC's a country club. They want people that are doing business. And I think that's their nice way of qualifying the field. They're not looking to have 500,000 writers. They're looking to have 5,000 people that are generating money. And they also are one of the more technologically advanced companies out there. They're reportedly one of the fastest growing ones. But they all come in different flavors. That one you got to apply to the college and get in, okay? We'll finish with that last little mini bucket, print royalties. I'm just going to say, in my whole time as a manager of Incubus for 17 years in a band, he sold some records and he got tons of airplay. I can't remember if we made 10 cents on sheet songbooks anymore, but I know you can find every song and every tablature of Incubus online, and I don't think it's worth the money to go stop everybody from doing it. So ditto for the digital print stuff. So now that you know where the money is, let's talk about how you get it, okay? And that's the Zook scale. Get the money, right? Remember, there's two different buckets here, big buckets, right? It's mechanicals in the performance. Let's talk about the performing rights organizations, which help you get the money on that performance side. What is a performing rights organization? They're referred to in the business as PROs. So if you hear that term, you'll know what it is, performing rights organization. The PROs are the societies around the world that are responsible for collecting income on behalf of songwriters and music publishers when a song is publicly broadcast, okay? Whether it's the club, whether it's the radio, whether it's the jukebox, whether it's on the airplane, intercom, doesn't much matter. The PROs are the folks that go out there and help you collect that money. The PROs track down the cash for you when your music is played on television or on radio. They track down the cash, whether it's a play on Pandora or Spotify or at that club, wherever that might be. The places that play those music are the ones that pay that money, those licensing fees, to these PROs, who in turn collect that money and then move it on down to the actual songwriters and so forth. Everybody got that so far? All right, you guys are a smart bunch. I like this. There are three, we just talked about CSAC. There are three main PROs here in the United States. You want to take a shot at it?
BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC.
Exactly. ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, okay? All of them performing the same general function in their own little, interesting ways. They all typically pay on about the same, quarterly schedule, right, and so forth. The main difference is, people ask all the time, so what are the differences between ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, right? The main difference is how they started. ASCAP was started and still is run by songwriters and publishers, okay? That's their focus, so they're very inviting of all publishers and all songwriters. They don't discriminate by how big you are, what kind of music. They don't care about any of that stuff. BMI is called, Broadcast Music Industries, I think, are incorporated, BMI, but it started from broadcast. It was started by radio guys back in the day because they were looking to help, they were looking to get music's licensed so that they could play it on the air and so forth. So BMI was started by radio broadcasters, and CSAC, is Zook Smith just noted, is an invitation only. Those are the three, more obvious distinctions between them. If you're looking to find out what, a little bit more detail on what those differences are, I'm going to send you to there's a link on our website today on the event page to a site called SongTrust, who's a company that actually helps you. They're kind of an admin company online. I'm not advocating for or against them, except that as I was doing some homework for our broadcast today, there was a wonderful resource for all kinds of information. So there's Joe's got it, or Cody's got it up there, sorry. Up there, and a great resource. If you go to their blog, they give you all kinds of great information, basics on the music publishing thing. So go check out there. You can see what all the differences are. Okay. Now these PROs are not just here in America. Okay, they're all over the world, which is a tricky little thing because to get paid on all those songs, as you might imagine, you have to be registered in every one of these territories that pays, and that's no small issue. So today. We also put on our website a link to a listing of all the major territories and the PROs and a link to their website in those territories, so that if you're watching today from somewhere outside America, you can check and see who the PRO is in your neighborhood. Fundamentals of it work exactly the same way. They're there to go collect the money for you and your friends. Now, we talked to the mechanicals. That's the performance side of getting the money. That's your partner there. On the mechanical side of it, where we're going out and we're collecting on digital downloads, we're collecting on records, on music, on stuff, right? There's a company called the Harry Fox Agency. Ever heard of the Harry Fox Agency? Everybody's kind of heard of it, but they're not quite sure what they do. They're the folks that go out and collect the money from record companies and from people that are putting together those compilation CDs and so forth. And they go and specifically collect the mechanical income. So the record companies typically would pay Harry Fox Agency, who would remit to the publishers and writers. You got a question?
Yeah.
Microphone. Singer. Microphone.
My bad.
Okay, maybe you go a cappella. There you go, yeah.
It's loud enough. Yeah, so like let's say if you want to cover a song on your album, you would go to Harry Fox, right?
Yeah.
Let's say if you can't find that song within their website, because we were looking for a particular song that we wanted to cover on our album, a Prince song, and I couldn't find any Prince's stuff on there. You need the elusive one. Yeah, you pull out, the loose.
Yeah.
I have to make pancakes or something before I could do it.
You know what? I would say that if you started with one of those big people and you've done your due diligence online and you can't find the writer or publisher of the song, I'd ask you how you found out about the song, period.
Oh, well, it was one of our, songs that's on one of his album, America, and we performed it and stuff. So.
Okay. Well, somewhere out in the world is somebody, some writer and publisher, or maybe it's the same person that has that song. So somehow, some way, you could go ahead and record the song right now, make them come to you, which is not exactly the recommended path, and I shouldn't say that as a music professional. But, there's a compulsory license which allows you to cover almost any song, right? I can go and cover a Frank Sinatra. I can cover any song I want, as long as I pay that 9.1 cents, okay? It's called a compulsory license, right? So worst case scenario, they find you and you just set aside 9.1 cents because that's what you're going to be paying. And these are the kind of things when you're in a band and you've got records being sold, and your big hit is for another songwriter, then you just got your record royalties. You won't be making that.
So what? Okay, so one more question. So let's say you're in a band and you had a disgruntled member in the band, and you have a song that you want to record, and that person maybe came with a chord progression or something like that. The song already been released before, but you want to redo it, and you want to do it with the current band. And what would you have to do right there? Would that be considered a
Well, there's a couple of dimensions. If the song was recorded before and you did it for a record company, there would be a re-record restriction in there. And this is going to get a little technical, but there's a reason why the labels have these re-record restrictions, because they don't want some genius to record it for them and then go record it for one of their competitors the next day. When you get into the actual songs and stuff, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in terms of the key points in a publishing deal, and one of them is determining what the splits were, right? So if you guys never wrote any of that stuff down and never filed the copyrights listing the actual songwriters in here, okay, that might feel good. Now let's imagine you have a big hit with that song that the guy wrote a couple chord progressions on that you changed a little bit, right? If I'm his manager, I'm sitting there going, bullshit, okay? He was part of that original songs and now you're evading. And these are the kind of things you read about in the paper, right? Who was it? Robin Thicke, the Blurred Lines, they were, we didn't steal from Motown, or what was it, Marvin Gaye song, right? And so they had a little debate about whether they were or were not pinching. They lost that one. So what happens is you wind up going to court spending money. It won't be an issue if it's not a hit, okay? If it's not a hit, nobody's arguing. It only is an issue when it's a hit, and depending on how big a hit it is, there are lots of people that'll run in there to try to make a buck. So the moral of the story is, when you're writing songs, gentlemen, when you're getting along, okay, when you're thinking about management contracts, any kind of contract, you write a contract for to kind of outline exactly what everybody meant it to be in that moment, so that when everybody's memories fade or their emotions get in the mix, you know, the law isn't about emotions, it's about facts,
But
right?
if you did do that, you're still able to record the song, right?
You can record the song forever, right? Oh, no, you can record the song. That person couldn't stop you from recording the song, okay? But if you tried to change it to evade his ownership, then I think you'd have an issue, all right? I could do a whole show on disgruntled band members. I'll just tell you, you know, I got a call from one of our disgruntled band members the other day who's been gone from Incubus for 15 years and still can't stop crying about it.
We just played a show with probably, you know.
DJ 1987?
Was that old dude? No person there.
Different person. Okay, yeah, you'd remember this guy, I guarantee you. All right, so.
we got a few questions.
Okay,
for
we
you.
got a few questions now.
If we have
Okay,
time,
now they're
yeah.
livening up a bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
from Gigante.
From gigantic. Okay.
Is it worth building a personal relationship with someone at your PRO if the music isn't making a ton of money yet? Is it even possible, or are they dicks about it?
Well, here's what I'm going to say, just as a general matter, of course. One of those big picture lessons on our website, shameless plug, was about making it personal, right? This whole idea of making it personal. So do you make a relationship with the people at your PRO? Why wouldn't you, okay? They're in the business of collecting money, and I'd like to think that they do that without prejudice. Wherever there's money, they're going to get it. Versus if you were at a record company, and now they can decide whether they're going to spend their time on Down North, right, or on Up South, right? Then having that personal relationship and what they might do for you, all things being equal,
Right.
is even more important, okay? But if you're out there trying to build a career in the music business or in the pizza business or in whatever business, okay, having relationships, good relationships built on credibility and track record is huge.
And then we got one more.
Okay.
From Poison CTRLCC. I manage an upcoming singer-songwriter, and we've received some interest from some A&R managers to write for their artists. I've noticed that because of our status, we're often dealt with under-the-table deals, and we're submitting songs aimlessly. How can I make sure we don't get burned, but at the same time not turn off the people approaching us for the songs?
Well, if you've registered your songs, right, you can't get burned, okay? Unless they try to go and take your song and claim that it was theirs, in which case then he who has the deepest pockets can have the most fun. I'll just say that, right or wrong, okay? And there's lots of people who get in lawsuits where the bigger player can outlast the other folks, and it's happened, okay? Nobody wants to talk about it. But if you've been invited to write a song for somebody else, you've properly noted that, taking care of business, which is really simple. All you got to do is record it. The next step is send it to the copyright office. The next step is go sign up with a PRO so you're represented.
Right.
And then when they record that song, you make the money. Simple.
Sweet.
So I don't think there's a way to get hosed. There's plenty of ways to get hosed in the music business, but if you're taking care of your business and they're asking for your song, that's a much more difficult path, okay? So we figured out Harry Fox Agency is the guy that goes out. Did we talk about Harry Fox yet? Yeah, we did. Okay. Harry Fox, for you folks that don't know, is not just a fine old man. Okay, we don't know if Harry Fox is still alive now. I reckon he was there. They are the premier music publisher agent for mechanical licensing all over the world, or actually in America, but they have affiliates in these other places. So your music, typically they do deals with publishers, not artists. So your publisher will hook you up with them, and they're going to help you collect that mechanical money out there. Okay. Now, publishers, are a big part of the music publishing business, right? So I'm going to say, what is it, people ask me, what is it that publishers do? I told you we had a bunch of the smartest, most talented folks on our web show over the last year and a half. And one of them was a lady by the name of Jody Gerson, who I've known for years. When I first met her, she was working at EMI Music Publishing, which is where my friends in Incubus had their publishing for years. So Jody and I were friends over the years. She's now running Sony ATV, which is the biggest music music publishing company out there. So I thought when it came to describing what it is a music publisher do, why not start at the top, and we'll talk to somebody who's actually doing it on a day-to-day basis, and then I'll chime in. Cody, play that clip for us if you would, please.
Imagine this. Every time you hear a song, you're in an elevator, you turn on the radio, you buy a physical copy of music, you download something from iTunes, you hear a song in a commercial, you hear a song in a television show, you are at the movie theater and a song comes. Anytime you hear a song, that song had to be licensed and paid for. That's music publishing. My job as a music publisher is to take a song and create the most value for that song. It is a pennies business, but those pennies add up. Any version of that song, a karaoke version, a cover version, an American Idol singer sings a song by Lady Gaga, that song is still making money. A record company only makes money from the artist version of those songs.
All right, smart lady, Miss Jody Gerson. Now, I understand from Michelle that our chat are notoriously fickle, if my developers are watching, our notoriously fickle chat room on our RenmanMB site is gone down for the count. So if you're looking to have some comments, you can go over to our YouTube channel and click on the live event. You should be able to make your comments in there. We'll keep an eye on that, okay? So we're talking about why, what a music publisher does, right? And this is like a big question. So let me give you some other ideas of what they do and how they can help you. A highly motivated music publisher reads somebody that's given you an advance, is looking for some ways to get it back, and one way is selling records. So it's not uncommon that somebody might sign a publishing deal before they sign a record deal, and in that case, I know that when I worked at Sony Music, I was constantly being pitched by publishers who'd signed an artist early in a development deal, right? Maybe like that person you were talking to a bit earlier. And they'll go out and actually try to help you get a record deal, which would be huge. In these big publishing companies, they have a department of people that can help you license your music for those songs, TV, movies, commercials, and all that stuff that fall into that, which bucket?
Money bucket.
Well, the money bucket. Okay, I love that. The sync part of that big bucket, the synchronization licenses. So they can help you with it. They have people that are out there talking to advertising agencies and movies, movie producers, TV shows, and this. I love those, man. That's good. I'm going to borrow those pants too. They can help you get covers with your song. We were talking about you were talking about covers, or somebody was talking about covers, right? A great song gets covered by 1 million different people, right? And so you can think of how many times, big writers have had songs covered. Prince has had his songs covered, Rolling Stones have had their songs. All kinds of big, acts have had not only hit on their own terms, but had other people do it. And the record or the publishers can really help you that because they're out there talking to label A&R folks. They're talking to producers. They're talking with other songwriters. They can help you collect the money. Okay, they have the weight to get paid, and that's a big reason to think about a publisher. We talked about registering your songs and hooking up with a PRO and all of these things. The reason you want to do that is because the actual grunt work of going out and registering your song, not just in America, but in the 90 or other 100 countries around the world that actually pay money to writers. Imagine you had to do that in different languages, different locales, with people that don't know you, where culture might be a little bit of under the table, behind the scenes graft, corruption might be part of the game. So a big publisher can help you handle all of that paperwork and administration, the same that the PRO can do. Here's a really important reason why you want to have a publisher if you can. They might actually play banker in your career by giving you an advance, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that might come in the form of an advance that allows everybody to quit their day gig and concentrate full-time on music. It might take the place of buying some equipment for you guys to make music. Once you might have a record deal, and the label may not be doing their job in an area as well as you'd like to do. Maybe it's publicity, it might be independent promotion. There have been cases where a well respected manager with a band on the uptake may be able to go to his publisher and get them to advance them money so that they can go out and hire an independent publicist or an independent promotion person or hire a licensing person, whatever it might be, that can supplement and do the label's job in the early days when perhaps they're not doing it. So those are some big important things that a publisher can do for you that are worth considering. So why should you make a publishing deal? Code? We have Miss Gerson over there? We sure do. She's going to tell us why you should sign a publishing deal from a publisher's perspective.
You think you can do it yourself? Sure, do it yourself. Me, for instance, I mean, there are a couple things. There's on the business side, in terms of the paperwork of it. Listen, I have a 18-year-old son who's a songwriter, and I tried to do his paperwork with Interscope Records. The first cut he had was with Nicole Scherzinger, and I tried to do that paperwork. I don't know who could do the paperwork. Okay, so then your lawyer could do the paperwork. The thing is, if you feel like, if we together feel like your songs have an opportunity to live in many places, you should have a music publishing. You know, I think, number one, you need your money collected in every territory throughout the world. Not easy to do on your own. The other thing is, we're really in danger right now of losing a tremendous amount of income with all of these new digital things. I mean, we've now withdrawn a lot of our rights from ASCAP and BMI because they're limited in the deals that they can make with the YouTubes of the world. So right now, we really have to enforce the rights of songs and make sure songs are licensed and paid for. So that's on the business side. Creatively, for instance, you know, Lady Gaga came to me when I first came to Sony ATV, and I signed her for a significant amount of money. I really believed in her. The first thing I did was call to Interscope. What do you guys think about her? Well, we love her. She's great. Nothing sounds like her on the radio, and we're not going to radio so fast. I was like, oh, okay, look at my investment. And what we did was her manager, Troy Carter, and her production company, Vincent Herbert, were kind enough and smart enough to...
All right, we were moving around our props in here, so we went a little long. So bottom line is, you heard it from an old hack manager why you need a publisher. You heard it from the person running it. Those are all great reasons to think about a publishing deal. So if you're thinking about a publishing deal, right? Now the obvious question is, okay, and what kind of publishing deal should I be looking for? Everybody's nodding here, okay? So let's start with the obvious ones. Do we have a question first before I go into this code about tip sheets, you said?
Yes, Liz, who's at work and can't talk to us right now.
Liz? How does she know we're on? Oh, she can't talk to us and signal that she's watching. All right.
Liz is wondering, what is the best tip sheet for new artists?
The tip sheets are for radio, okay? And the best tip sheet you can have is a great song, okay? You're talking to the wrong person about tip sheets. I think tip sheets are a freaking wank, okay? And you can quote me on that. Did you miss that? I think they're a wank, all right? They make promotion guys feel like they're doing something. If you've got a song, the tip sheet will take care of that. So don't waste your money on tip sheets, I'd say, but I'd be happy to talk to you about some of the things you could spend your money on, all right? Okay, back to work. What was your name, Liz? Liz, back to work. Sorry, to bother you with that answer. Okay, let's talk about the kind of publishing deals that go on. In the old days, these publishing deals were crazy. Some guy, be some old guy that never wrote a song in his life. All of a sudden, he owns 80% of, the Motown song, right? There are all kinds of stories of exploitation back in the day of people taking your publishing. So let's talk about what that means. When you get paid, there's money for the artist. That's half the money that comes in publishing goes to the artist no matter what, right? The other half is called publishing, right? So in a straight publishing deal, I do a straight publishing deal with you guys, which rarely happens anymore. So when somebody offers you one, folks, it rarely happens, unless you're dumb, okay? So that's a little rough, but I'm trying to break it down. This is a reality version. So a typical publishing deal in the straight one would be 50 cents for you, 50 cents for me, comes out of that buck on your record, right? Those deals don't happen if you have representation, if you have any kind of leverage here. And as soon as you start hearing people talk about it, trust me, I'm being serious, start to run for the hills here, okay? I got my chalk here we're going to play with and say. The other more common deal that's out there today is called a co-publishing deal. And the co-publishing deal assumes that you're going to split your publishing, okay? So I'm going to give you a little math here, okay? Let's imagine a buck comes in here, okay? We talked about that 50 cents of this money in that straight up deal, we'll call it the straight deal. I got another name for it, but you know we have some people watching. 50 cents for you, for this publisher, and then 50 cents over here for the artist, right? This will be the artist side, okay? So that's how this breaks down on your straight deal. Now, if we're talking about the co-publishing deal here, right? That means you're going to split your publishing. So I'm going to ask you guys to do a little arithmetic with me, so stay on your toes here, okay? If we were going to split our publishing 50-50, right? That means you got half the publishing and I got half the publishing. How much goes over here for the publisher side? 25 cents for this guy, right? And over here, you got 25 cents for the artist, okay? So the straight deal nobody's doing anymore. In this scenario, out of that buck that comes in, the publisher in a co-publishing deal gets 25 cents, right? And the artist gets 75 cents here in that co-publishing. Oh, not $75. That would be sweet. 75 cents. Okay, does everybody get that out online? Does everybody get that, Michelle? Okay, that's the arithmetic. Now, when I come up with that dollar, I'm assuming that there's 10 songs on your record. The actual rate we know is 9.1 cents. So it'd be 90 cents a record. But bottom line is, if you go out and sell 1 million records these days, okay, that would be, let's call it 900 grand, right? And the artist would get 75%, or 75% of that money, which is a pretty fat number. And again, it doesn't matter if you didn't make a dime on your record deal, okay, you would have made that publishing money. Everybody's feeling good. Remember my buddy Mario? That's why the guys that write the songs live in big houses. You know, the Rolling Stones, Keith Richards and Mick Jagger have the big houses. Ronnie Wood's house, I guarantee, ain't as big as those two, okay? And Charlie, we might be living in a freaking apartment for all we know, okay? But I'm betting Mick and Keith have the two big houses there, okay? That's a co-publishing deal. That's typically what you can get out there in today's world. You need to get a professional lawyer. We talked about that in one of our sessions about building a professional team and why when you get offered a publishing deal, folks, don't talk to mom and dad. Don't talk to the real estate attorney that always wished he was in the music business. You get one of those music business guys that knows the players and knows the territory. And if you don't do that, there is no crying aloud after the fact, okay? So, there's no crying in baseball. There's no crying. No, there is no crying in baseball. There is some crying in the music business, but it gets you nothing, folks, man. Trust me, okay? Now, a better deal for you is what's called an admin deal, okay? And an admin, remember we talked about all that plumbing and grunt work that everybody has, filing papers and all this. Now, that takes real people and real time to do that. But if you're a big artist, right? Let's say you're Tom Petty or your Incubus goes out and wants to do a new publishing deal. Those labels aren't going to have to advance some money. They're not going to have to try to break the record and all that stuff. It really comes down to just a collection business, okay? And in this admin deal here, you don't even have to give up ownership. In these other two deals, you're giving up some ownership for a period of time, and we'll talk about that in a minute. In these admin deals, it's really just a clerical thing. We'll go and take 5, 10, 15%, whatever you can negotiate, and we're going to go out and we're going to handle all of that grunt work for you, right? So a big publisher will do it is if that small take, okay, off a big number is worth doing, they got to do the same amount of work for a big band as they do for a brand new band like DownNorth. So that's why these admin deals come apart, are part of the kind of deals that you can make out there, right? Now, let me just talk about something else that's kind of happening more and more today. There are companies out there today that are set up online. A lot of them are online. One of them is SongTrust, again, who I have no stake in this company other than I found them, and heard about them, and they provide a resource. What they do is they go and do a lot of this admin stuff up, get you in all of these places around the world, get you in all the PROs, get your money collected, whether it's Spotify and all these, and they'll take a 15% fee for doing that. You own your music, okay? You might sign up for a year, give them a year to go out and do it. It's not like you can get them going for 2 weeks. And by the way, it takes a while for all this money to start flowing once you're in there, right? So those kind of companies are more and more happening out there. And you can find them, folks, by just going on the web and typing in licensing companies, you know. And this is where, you know, I've been in the music business for 36 years and understand publishing at the top level. But there's a lot that's changed. So for me, I went out there this weekend and started doing the same kind of homework that all of you folks can do. And what it did is gave me a clearer understanding, you know, about how all these things, but particularly all the new stuff, the digital streaming and all these new things that weren't there when I started in the record business, okay? Now, those are the kinds of deals, okay, that people will talk about in a publishing deal, right? Now let's talk about the key points in a deal. The first one is term, right? It used to be publisher owned that royalty, that piece of your pie forever, right? That was the typical deal. That was back in the 50s. All those sad guys that wrote the songs, and some guys living in a penthouse and never wrote a song. That's how that happened. Today, it doesn't happen. So the term typically that you can negotiate today is 10 years or until you've actually recouped the advances that you might have gotten, okay? So term is a key part of it. The idea today is you want to limit the term and get your music back later in the ballgame. The advances are typically what you'll talk about in a publishing deal, right? In the old days, you could get $250,000, $300,000 advance, you know, when you could sell more records. And if they knew the band was going to be on Sony and they'd done their homework, the publishers have called up their buddies at the label and, hey, man, we're really behind this. We're going to really give this a go, that they would advance money against you. So when we go back to this math here, right, if we thought that Artist X was going to sell 500,000 records and they were getting their buck a record, right? And this is what our projection was, that would equal $500,000 in publishing income, right? And if the publisher was going to get 25% of that money, right, which would be $125,000 earned on them, they'll advance you some money against it, right? And so all the money that comes in on your publisher share recoups that advance, okay? So this advance is a key part of the negotiation. It's based on their vibe of how you're gonna do. And that money that comes in is the money that could pay for your equipment, pay for you guys to leave your jobs and everything else. This money, once they've given it to you, it's non-recoupable, okay? So that's the risk that these publishers have when they start writing these big checks and all of a sudden your record stiffs and they don't get their money back, they're out the dough. And so in days gone by when record sales were much bigger and those mechanical royalties were much, much bigger, read Alanis Morissette sold 30 million records on one album, okay? The biggest record in the music business last year in America was Justin Timberlake, 2.3 million copies, okay? Wow. So do the arithmetic on mechanicals, okay? 10%, okay? So that number of these big advances is becoming a thing of the past. More likely scenario, band X or artist, songwriter X has a big hit single, might have been in a band, okay, now has written something on his own, and the song's a big screaming hit around the world, okay? And some publisher can now calculate how much money they think they're gonna get over 2 years, and then they advance that person some money for a publishing deal. Michelle?
We have a question from Cairo Fire. For an unsigned act getting a publishing deal, what's the estimated advance?
It would be based on some person's, when all is said and done, if you're talking to a smart publisher, they're making some calculation of publishing income, which could be mechanicals, that's one bucket. Another bucket is performance. You know, is it going to get played on the radio? Another bucket might be licensing and syncs. Can they get syncs? So they're going to add up all those sources of income, probably not going to even add in print because it's not worth it, right? And they're going to add that up, and they're going to make some advance percentage. And if you're the publisher, you're going to try to make that advance as cozy as you can. If you're the manager, and I'm managing DownNorth, I'm looking for the big number. They're trying to get a little number, but we're both going to make some calculation on how we think it's going to do.
So it's a risk then, because what if the band does do well? And they already pay that and they can't get that money back, right?
Thank you very much, right? And that all gets back to that big picture concept of get the money. Both sides are trying to get the money, folks, right? And that's where all the drama is. That's where some of the smiles and some of the tears are, depending on how you're doing it, right? And trust me when I tell you that lots of publishers have made big advances and gotten killed, okay? And lots of publishers have signed some act that they believed in for 10 grand, where it's just like, I'm going to pay these guys rent here, and it turned into a big home run, okay? There's no recipe in the music business, okay? Good vibes is one thing. Great sales is better, okay? All right. Any other questions in there?
Yeah, we have a question from Ned.
Ned,
Will
okay.
any publisher worth their salt ask you to sign over the masters to your tracks?
Would any publisher worth his salt ask you to sign over the masters? Go ahead.
So that's our boy Ned. He was actually going to be there.
Ned Durrett?
Oh,
Yeah,
Ned's
yeah,
not here?
That's our Ned.
Okay, Ned, where the hell were you, Ned? Leaving the guys here. Would any publisher worth his salt assign you the masters, okay, is not the publisher's property. Who owns the masters?
Or the producer, no?
Record label, mostly. It could be the artist if you were artist/record label. It could be the producer if you were producer/label, okay? But more often than not, he who puts out the biggest chunk of dough is going to want to own those. And unlike publishing, where you can get the ownership of your songs back, right? Getting the ownership of your masters, not impossible, but you'd have to have a mountain of leverage to do that, i.e. you've sold a bunch of records and a record company thinks you can sell some more, and now they might give it back to you, Rolling Stones and some others, but that doesn't come back very often. So Ned, good question. That's the record company's business, all right? How's that, your manager there?
No, that's, we had shows and stuff together. We had shows and stuff together with him, and we stayed at his house all weekend.
All right,
Great
nice.
guy.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that next week on touring, how to save money on expenses. All right, I want to talk about another important part of this, part of a publishing deal, and it's an ongoing one, right? Who writes the songs? Okay, now I managed a band for years, right? And there were five guys in the band. 4 guys, 1 former stalker. And anyway, they split the publishing for years. U2 split the publishing for years. The Beatles was Lennon and McCartney. And you can tell if you listen to Beatles records which one you think John wrote, which one you think Paul wrote, but they wrote them together. Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, same thing, right? I mentioned Keith, was handling the music, Mick was doing the lyrics, right? So how those songs get conceived, okay, and who gets shares of it is totally up to the participants, right? You could have a guy in the band that, hey, he's not really writing the songs, but, we want to bro him down because he's in there, he's doing his bit, so we'll give that guy 10%, right? We got a new guy in the band who's cool, but he hadn't been here as long as this other guy in the band, so, we'll give him 8, and then the 3 guys that have been here the whole time, we're going to have them split, right? Here's where this gets interesting. When you're starting off and there's no money on the table, it's like Robin Hood, one for all and all for one, right? It's great, we're a team, right? Then, so you have some success, and all of a sudden the money starts coming across that table, and all of a sudden everybody goes, I don't know about Nicholas here, I don't know if he's pulling his, and Anthony, all he did was write those shitty lyrics, man, and, that bass line, ding, ding, that's really what sold the song, right? And so everybody, they're hitting all the hot buttons, so everybody's going to have an opinion on it, right? How you do the splits is hugely important, because once you do those splits, man, it's forever, okay? And so I'm not saying which way is right. If I was managing a band, my thought was make it equal so that everybody's in the game together, okay? As time plays out, though, on any number of levels, you find out that all band members aren't equal, all partnerships aren't equal. Some partners, some band members pull more weight than others, okay? And those are things, that's a whole different show about band dynamics and what brings them together and drives them apart. And that's one guaranteed to bring a few tears to your eyes. So that splits is an important part of your deal. Part of that big terms of a publishing deal, are you going to do a co-publishing deal? Are you going to do a straight deal? Are you going to do an admin deal? Those are all part of the key points of a deal. And one big point is that reversions, right? That term is really 10 years, and the term reversion came out of it. It used to be forever. Now it's 10 years, and your music reverts back. You know, where does that come into play? Let's imagine you've had a successful career. You sold a bunch of records. You've written some big hits, and now you're where Led Zeppelin was, where they're not making new songs. They're just mining the history. So you think about great music, you know, song placements, the Led Zeppelin in the Cadillac commercial. You know, my kids were introduced to Queen by Viagra. You know, we are the champions and all of that stuff, right? So when you get your songs back late in your career, all of a sudden that house you built has appreciated, right? And all of a sudden that house has got a few extra rooms in it and now commands some value. So those are the kind of things that artists, and they get further along in their career, they're happy to have people playing and enjoying their music and putting it in movies and commercials and so forth. Go ahead.
I know probably a lot of people are probably going to be asking about it soon, but what about retitling? I've heard a lot about retitling, and a lot of people have been saying, some people say, yeah, do it. Some people say, don't do it.
Here's why retitling happens, okay? They're not trying to mess with your creative. It's more of a clerical thing, right? Let's say we have a song that, you know, it's called What Up. In America, that's cool, and that means everything. What Up in another country might mean go fuck yourself, right? So that's horrible. Strike that from the record, okay? But you get my point, folks, okay?
Well, I'm talking about, like, let's say, like, I had a person approach me and said, hey, if we work together, then we would retitle the song on ASCAP or BMI, and then I would be the publisher for blah, blah, blah.
It's for administrative purposes because it's already in the system in certain places. You might be retitling that song for a specific application. The song's in the movie, so the song becomes, you know, What Up from this motion picture. It has to do with clerical stuff. It's my understanding, okay? You know, I'm not totally an expert, but that's the context I've, you know, seen that come up in, you know?
So I'm saying, like, you only do it if I could put him as the publisher, and
here's what I'm going to tell you, okay? As soon as you start getting these long conversations with people, I'll only do it if. You have a lawyer talking to this guy?
Not yet.
Okay, then you're screwing up already.
Yeah, I
okay, is what I'm telling you. Okay, I'm a manager and I have a vague understanding of. If this was coming up to me, I'd sit there and say to whoever that is, you know what? Duly noted, let me talk to my attorney about that and get the full lay of the land, okay? One of our sayings around here, you don't ask, you don't get. Here's another one I'll throw into that mix on our next big picture. It's okay to say I don't know, okay? On the way to finding out exactly what the answer is, okay? You'll find a lot of people in this music business are these great ad-lib artists that want to be experts on everything. Me, I'm a big mouth. I got some opinions, but if I don't know something and it's hugely important, say I don't know, but I'll come right back to you on that one, all right? So reversions, getting your songs back, that's how you want to make sure it works, okay? We went through the math chalkboard now, and we showed you where the dollar comes in. I think we're right near at the end now. How do you go and pitch a publisher, right? That one comes all the time. I'm going to refer you back to last week's lesson on how to pitch a label, because it's the same thing, right? You pitch. The people in the publishing business are no different in the record business. They go to trusted sources. They want to go to people that they've done business with, okay? And so that means you got to crack through this who knows who thing, right? And it's no different in the publishing business because they're going to put money up here. Jody Gerson had a great bit of advice that I agree 100%. So often people will try to get to the top dog in the company. They'll maybe they're trying to get an attorney and they want to go for the top dog in the company. Where in fact, the more likely scenario is that they go find a more entry-level person that's more on their level, who's got the ear of the president or the big person in the publishing company, because the big people at the companies are going to go talk to other people. They're going to go and ask, what do you think about it? I'm going to play you this song. Hey, what do you think? What do you think? I don't know many people that don't do some bit of poll taking, and they typically do it with voices and ears and people that they trust. I know I've done that for years. A song will come in, I'll go, what do you think about this? Or I'll take a picture, a photograph of the band. And I never show it to the band. I show it to my wife. I show it to women. Because I'm looking for perspective, not just the validation. Hey, I'm right about that, aren't I? Right? You ever have people ask you that question? I want to ask you a question. Let me tell you what I think. That's not the question. That's you fucking giving a speech here, okay? I know because I do that all the time. So when you're pitching a publisher, you want to be prepared, okay? Don't send them some long-ass email. Don't send them 20 songs. And for no matter what you do, don't tell them, hey, this song's really cool, but we haven't fixed it. Forget about that. Make believe you got 90 seconds to make your life story. So skip the life story, get to the money. I had a guy called on our hotline yesterday, and I happened to be walking over by the production. I picked it up, and the first 5-6 minutes, God love him, great guy, was giving me all the story and philosophy. I told him, I said, hey, here's the deal, man. I'm happy to talk to you. But if you get the next person on the phone that's not just going, yeah, what the heck, I'll just pick up the phone. Be brief. Tell them what you want them to do. It's business, okay? Don't get all upset going, dude, the guy didn't have the time to talk to me. If they're successful, they're likely busy, okay? So don't mess around. Get your best foot forward. And here's the other bit of advice. Jody said it. This gentleman, Jake, First Loose, all the people in the business say it. In today's world, where you can put up a website, put all your music there for everybody to hear in its full glory. Put up your video there, put up your own bio, put up your own pictures. For you to paint the picture in your own terms of what you think you guys are all about, okay? And if you can attract people people come to your shows and they tweet about it to their friends, they write an email, however it happens. In today's world, if you got something going on and you're lurking around the music business on the web or otherwise, the likelihood is that people are going to find you, okay? And that wasn't the case when I started in the business. It was either in the front door, past the secretary, or nowhere. Today, it's not easy. But on this level, the music business access, you guys are witness today. You're sitting here having a conversation with people that have been in the business. This wouldn't have happened 30 years ago. You guys would have had zero chance. So you got to make something happen on your own, because whether you're Jody Gerson running a big publishing company or Tom Corson running a big record company, if you've got something going on, you'll figure out a way to get on their radar. And then the music does the talking. Right? Does that make sense? Any other questions, Michelle?
We got one from Ray. He's in a band, I think, but he's asking if it's best to have individual publishing or to create it as a band. So I guess if they're all writing together, should they each create their own, or do they just put their music as a band through a publishing?
Well, it has the same net effect, okay, in some regards. I'm sure it's a paperwork. So if each of you guys had your own publishing companies, right? And the four of you guys worked on a song, instead of having your individual names on that song, you would have your publishing entities be the owner of the song. So net effect, I would go to a lawyer and ask him, why should you do this? But my guess is you're probably overthinking it too much, okay? Which, again, love musicians, managers too. Boy, man, you sit me in the corner and get me thinking, man. My mind goes to the darkest places first, okay? You guys are nodding, okay? So don't overthink it, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to decide who wrote the song, who gets a piece of the ownership. By the way, you don't even have to write the song. There's been managers recently, I won't mention any names, on one of the biggest hits of the year, where the manager talked the artist into making him a writer on the song. Because he was like, dude, I'm doing a great job for you. And I'm thinking, wow, geez, maybe I screwed up. Maybe I should have been pitching for 15%. And hey, dude, I created this great environment. Can I get a songwriting credit? Didn't occur to me. I never claimed to be the smartest guy in the music business, but I'm definitely not a crook either. Anyway, all right. So what can you folks do out there today to get this ball rolling? The first thing. What's the first thing you can do there, Anthony?
First thing, write songs.
Oh, God, love you. Write songs, folks, okay? Remember, it's all about songs and great performances. He's not overthinking it. That's what you need to start with. Once you get those songs done, Anthony, what are you going to do next?
Record those songs, or you got to put in tangible type thing?
Okay. Or you could write it down, write it on a piece of paper. Okay. So you're gonna register those songs. Okay. So you could start with the copyright office. You could do that bit on your own. We have a link on our event page to the copyright office, if I'm not mistaken. Do we not, Code?
We sure do. You want me to show the...
I think they'll find it on their own, but there it is, just in case. This is your test of your, can you find stuff that's on the page? stage, okay? And if you can't, I'm going to say that's not a great sign. So you need to register those songs to get paid. Before you register those songs, what are you going to have to sort out too?
Okay, I forgot the.
If you wrote them together, you're going to have to sit there and decide whose piece was what,
Yeah, who
right?
wrote each of the parts.
And so if it started today, we're up one for all for one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, then you can't change it. Well, I meant to say 2 for me, 1 for you, right? That's Sting's way of dealing with it.
So
Okay.
if you do put like 100% on the ASCAP, you can't change that.
Nope. Well, no, you could assign one of the writers. Now we're really going into the psycho zone here now. A writer could assign his ownership share, okay, in a song, unless, of course, he's gone to up here organizing agreements. What was that, lesson 6? You know, your band member agreement, where it might say in your band member agreement, you cannot assign your rights to other people, right? Because there are all kinds of horror stories, you know. You assigned it to some person because you made a bad deal or you needed money, and now all of a sudden, when it comes to that big licensing deal, now you've got this person that wasn't even in the band voting the share of whether you take that commercial for what was it, Cadillac, Break On Through to the Other Side, the Doors song. That was the song that the agency wanted to use before they did the Led Zeppelin rock and roll. And you know what happened? The drummer wouldn't approve it. He reckoned that Jim Morrison would have turned over in his grave if they did that deal. And I'm thinking if Jim Morrison could have turned over in that bathtub, he'd still be alive collecting the money. Okay. Okay, we're gonna scratch that from the record, Tony. Oh man. Okay, it's publishing. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. I can get a little cynical here. Anyway, the point I'm making is that you got to decide the splits. It's forever, okay, and it's important stuff. So get your songs written. Get your stuff registered, figure it all out, and then the next thing you're going to do after that, probably join a PRO. Doesn't cost you anything. It might cost you a little something at CSEC. There's a nominal fee, okay? Beer money, okay, for just about any band. So, all right, so anyway, so we've talked about publishing, and we know it's important. We know why it's important. We know about that it's all part of getting the money, and there's no more important place to get the money because that publishing income comes without a lot of baggage, unlike the money you get from a record company. So we've talked about those sources of income. We understand the 3 buckets, the major buckets of where it's coming from. We know we're going to need some help getting that money, so that's these performing rights agencies or organizations. Harry Fox is going to help collect mechanicals. You know why you would think about being with a publisher? Because they can advance you money, they can play banker, they can help connect you with other people, they can do all kinds of things for you. And at the end of the day, you'll go through this math and decide whether making a publishing deal makes sense. And I would say for most artists that are just starting off, if you can take note of all those terms, including when you get your music back, there's a lot to be said for taking a publishing deal from a great publisher at the right place at the right time. And the reason I can tell you that, so many bands have done it. Incubus took a publishing deal. The company made all their money back, Incubus made all their money back, and that money we had our hands on played a huge part in helping us break the band. So anyway, any more questions before we get going?
I think you did a fantastic job, and everybody...
Is that a quote from somebody in the room?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. She's so good. She leaves an apple on my desk. Okay, any questions from you guys? When are you heading back to Seattle?
We're Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday. All right, so you'll be a little...
8 days tour so far. So yeah.
Good, good. Who booked that tour for you guys?
We are booking agent, Blue Sun. We helped.
All right.
We helped.
Does he sing into the microphone when you're playing gigs?
Oh, I'm touching. I'm like,
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead and touch that. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So next week we're going to be talking about touring here, folks. You know, how to build a touring business. That's when you talk about publishing being a huge part of your business. I can assure you, you guys are a rock band. I guarantee you, man, that's a huge, huge, huge part of your business if you get it right. Can last for you make some hits. You can keep playing them until till everybody's done, okay, in the biggest way. So I want to say thank you to our audience that's been watching online today. I want to thank you all, you guys. You've been a great bunch here today. I want to thank our wonderful crew, Miss Michelle Raitzin over here, my son Matt, the Renegade Rennie over there behind the glam cam, Cody Romness over in the corner, and Code Red,
Yeah.
Cody Cohen helping out. So I want to say this is, again, my name is Steve Rennie. I'm the Ren Man. You've been watching Renman U, and class is now dismissed. Get out of here.
Yeah.